And we'll just use some basic styling from Tailwind CSS and some grid to help us navigate through that. So we'll go ahead and focus on that now. So for right now, we'll just close out the header.tsx file. And I want to shift my focus to the main layout. What we want to accomplish for this layout is to have a responsive design where we have a sidebar that has all of our route link navigations, and we'll be able to distinguish what route we're on by highlighting the link. We're going to have a header here that will only have the logged in user and a logout button so that that user can log out. And if they don't have any clients, then we'll just display a message back to the user that's saying, hey, create your first client today. If it's a logged in user with no clients, if it's a logged out user with no clients, then we may end up just showing sign in to create your first client today. But we'll kind of care for the authentication portion later on. For right now, let's focus on the design. And we're going to have a sidebar and a header, and then we'll have our main content here. The big thing with the sidebar is on desktop versions, we're going to be able to see the icon and the text, and it'll be distinguished based upon the route that we're on. We'll use path name to help with that. On small devices, we're only going to see the icon and not the text, but we'll still have full functionality to the content within the page. So let's go ahead and work on building out that layout now. So I think first place we'll start is within the layout.tsx file. So this initial div, the first div, let's go ahead and give it a class name and set the height to full. And for right now, I'm just going to set the background to purple 200. This should take up the entire screen because remember we set the height to 100% for the app, the root, the HTML, and the body within the global.css. So going back to our localhost 3000, the entire page is purple. So that's great. We'll remove that for right now. Now within this layout, we can go ahead and highlight. Let's just go ahead and remove this header for right now. And the children tag, we'll copy and delete it. Let's add another div. This div is going to set the overall layout of our site. So we'll give it a class name of grid, and we'll go grid calls 8 on small devices. And on large devices, we're going to go grid calls 12. I'm going to set the height to full. And we can go ahead and let's add one more div within this div, and then I'm going to paste in the children. This is going to care for how we'll style the main content. And then we'll also need to, why is that throwing an error? And find div. There we go. Maybe I had something typed there wrong. So I won't worry about that one just yet. We'll come back to it. But let's go ahead and create a div for the sidebar. And this is going to be for the main content. So within the second div that we created, let's add another div. And we'll give it a class name of column span 1 on small devices. And on large devices, we actually could just we're going to go call span 1 as well. And I'm going to set the border to right, and we'll give this a background of orange 100. And I'll just type in sidebar for right now. Hit save. And you can see that we now have the sidebar, which is taking up, should be 1 column. And we can distinguish that in just a second. And on small devices, it's going to reduce down to 1 column as well. Perfect. So we'll replace this with the actual sidebar component, but we'll fix the layout first. So now within the div that is directly above the children tag, let's add a class name and a width of full. We're going to say columns is going to span 7. And on large devices, we're going to go column span 11. I'm going to give this a background color just to see what it looks like. We'll go blue 200, hit save. And now you see the main content is going to take up 11 columns on large devices, and the sidebar is going to take up 1. And on small devices, that's condensed to 8 columns. And we have 1 for the sidebar and 7 for the home page. Great. So now let's go ahead and work on this sidebar, and we can actually place the header in its new home, which is going to be directly above the children. And you see it right there, the JA dad and the button to sign out. And then right here, let's go ahead and add in a sidebar. So within the components directory, let's add a file named sidebar.tsx, and we'll do the RFCE snippet to create a component, and we'll name this component sidebar. And I'm just going to replace the text with the sidebar itself. And remember that it is lowercase, less than, and then capital SID. And then you should see it appear as a option @/components/sidebar. We're going to bring that in and just close off that component and go back to localhost. You'll see that the sidebar is now listed there. So I'm going to remove the background color. That was just to show you what it looks like. But now that we have the layout distinguished and we have a sidebar there, can I change this to 1 pixel? I like that size a little better. So now we are ready to update our sidebar with routes and links and a logo and all of that good information. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So within the sidebar, this is going to be a modular file, if you will, meaning that I want to try to create as many reusable items within it as possible. But for this, I think we'll only need to style the initial sidebar and then pass in the links. So first, let's go ahead and update this to sidebar, and then we're going to set it rac.fc is going to be equal to, yep, and this is just for TypeScript purposes. Inside the return statement, let's remove that div and we're going to replace it. We'll give it a class name, a height of full, set the direction to flex column, and we'll give it a little padding on the Y of 4. Within this div, we're going to have another div with a class name of margin bottom 6. So this first div is going to represent the logo section. And this is nothing relevant to the CRUD functionality of the site, just a little bit to add some styling, if you will. So with that second div, we're going to add another div and give it a class name of flex, set the items to centered. We'll go padding on the X of 4, and we'll say space on the X of 3. So this initial div, well, this div is just going to have the logo, and this is strictly optional. I'm just going to give it a little bit of life, if you will. So I'm going to have a closing div tag so that I can create a circle for the logo. So we'll go div, go ahead and close it off. We'll give it a class name with a height of 8. I'm gonna set the background color to gray 600, and we'll say rounded full. And this should create a little circle. Yep. You see there's a little circle right there. And then now underneath that circle, I want the name of the website. And I haven't really given it any serious thought, just freestyling a little bit today. So I'm just gonna name this client tracker. So I'm gonna say span and just name it client tracker. And then now you see the client tracker listed there, and you see the gray circle as a icon for the logo, if you will. So I'm gonna go back down to small devices. So actually, I'm gonna leave it like that for right now. Let's style the span. So initially, I want it hidden. So on small devices, you're only going to see the gray circle. On large devices, we'll go block. We'll set the text size to large, font to bold, and we'll set the text color to gray 800. Hit save. So let me do this. I think for this one, I'm gonna go large. So it is at large block. Let's go with tracker. There we go. That's fine. That looks fine right there. Okay. Now, there we go. Okay. And now what I want to do is bring in the links. So within the sidebar directory, let's add a file named sidelinks.tsx. Within this file, we're going to have the routes of where we will be able to link. We're going to have the links that represent the route, so where we'll be able to navigate within the app. So we have the file named side links. Let's just go ahead and add another file named link item.tsx. And inside of the side links, go ahead and mark this as a client side file. And I'm just going to create an RFC snippet that we'll have to update. So we'll say side links, hit save, and we can remove the React. Now let's bring this into our sidebar. So underneath the second closing div, let's go ahead and bring in side links, hit save, go back to localhost, and you see side links are listed here. So that's perfect. And close that out. Oh, we need to save it. Go. So now inside of the side links, we're going to need a few things in order to bring this page to life, if you will. First, we'll need to bring in path name or use path name. This is a React hook that's going to allow us to, or this is a feature from navigation from React that's going to allow us to capture the path of the route that we're currently on. And then if that route is an active route, we want to be able to distinguish that link by showing that we're on the page associated with that route. So next thing I want to do is I do want to add a few icons, and to help us with that, I'm going to be using React icons. So back in the terminal, we don't need to close the current terminals. Let's just add a new one, and we'll type in the command npm react icons and press enter. Okay, close this out. So the icons I want to bring in, go ahead and bring in import from React icons, and I'm going to use the FI icons. I just like the way they look. The first one I want is home. Then I want $, which is going to represent paid. Then I want FI plus circle, which is going to represent new. And then I'll have FI user, which is going to represent an unpaid client, be the icon for that particular route. And then last but not least, let's go ahead and import the side link, or excuse me, the side item that we just created. So we'll say import side. I don't think we made a function for that just yet. Let me go back to that folder. Link item. Nope, we haven't. Let me go ahead and create a quick component. We'll say RFCE and call it link item. Hit save and go back into side links. Now we'll say import link, and this is going to be the link item from /dash item. Perfect. So we have our imports cared for. Let's update this to reflect a TypeScript. We'll go react.fc. Now within the side links, what I want to do is first let's get access to path name. And this is going to be equal to use path name that we just imported from Next Navigation. This is client side. So the file had to be marked as use client. Then let's create an array of links. And we could have called this route, but I'm just going to call it links. And we'll set it equal to a open array. And what we want is a bunch of objects. The first key is going to be for href. I'm going to set that equal to /, which will be the home route. Then we'll have the label, label, and the name of this label is going to be home. Then we'll have a icon, and this is going to be the FI home icon that we have there. And we'll add a comma because we'll need to add 4 more. So instead of typing them all out, I'm going to just copy this and add 3 more objects. The second one is going to be a paid route. No, I'm sorry. Let's do the new route second. So we'll have the /new as the new route. And then we'll add the label of new, and then the icon for this will be plus circle. Then let's have a route for paid. The label will be paid, and the icon for this is going to be $sign. Last but not least, let's have a unpaid route. The label will be unpaid, and the icon for it is going to be user. Hit save. All right, sorry about that. Somebody at the door. Okay, now with the links or routes in place, or our links or route, however you want to look at it, let's go ahead and style out the link item. So I'm just going to remove this div, replace it with another div, give it a class name, and for this, we'll just give this one a class name of space on the Y of 2. And what we want to do is now loop over each of these links, and for each link we want to map out a link item, and of course we're going to create or add some additional props to go with it. So we'll start with the looping of links array. So we'll say links.map, and inside of this I'm going to pass in a href, a phref, a href, a label, and an icon. Then we'll come outside of, sorry, this should have been a bracket. This should be a bracket, and we'll come outside of the one. Uh-oh, sorry, that's not right. Let me start this over. We'll go with links.map. Inside of it, we're going to pass in a href, a label, label, and an icon. And then we'll say inside of it, and for each link item, we want to, that should be icon. Sorry, it should match these objects. That should be icon, not icons. Sorry. And for each link, we want to create a link item. So we'll say link, and then we're going to pass in a key, which is be the href. We'll pass in, actually, you know what? Let's just do this for right now. Let's go key href dot, well, we just make it just the href. And then we'll close this, hit save. And then now you're seeing 4 link items with a little space on the Y that basically represent the links within, that represent the objects within this links array. So now let's go ahead and start to assign some of its properties. So we'll say the href is going to be a href, set it equal to href, excuse me. And a label is going to be a label, BEL. We'll say icon is going to be equal to icon. And then last but not least, I'm going to pass in a is active. And then that is going to be equal to path name to href. And we're going to say the path name or has to match href. So we'll be using 3 equal marks, if you will, for that. Click save. Now let's go back, or let's go to the link item.tsx file, and let's go ahead and begin to style this out. We'll start with the imports. Up top, let's bring in from React icons. I want to use the icon type, and this is basically going to allow us to dynamically pass in the icons. And we could have done it a couple different ways, but I think this is probably the easier way. Next, I want to use a package named CLSX, and we'll go to the terminal and type in npm CLSX and press enter. This is just going to allow us to do some conditional rendering with the Tailwind CSS within the TypeScript. So we'll close the file out and let's just import it. We'll import CLSX from CSX. Okay, I don't think we'll need anything else. We'll go ahead and bring in link. I'm pretty sure we'll need that. All right, now this is a prop and we are using TypeScript, so we know we'll need to set our interface. So we'll say interface side item props, or link item props, I should say, link item props brackets. And of course, we're passing in a href as a string, a icon type, a label as a string, This should be lowercase. Last but not least is active. It's going to be a Boolean. It's either active or it's not. Okay. And then now let's update this. So we'll say act.fc, and then we'll have the equal sign. And then right after FC, let's go with lowercase, or excuse me, the less than symbol, and we'll add the name of the props that we're passing in. And we set the interface name to link item props, and we'll close it off. Then inside of the parentheses for the function, let's pass in href. Icon is going to be represented by icon, label, and then is active. Now, inside of the return statement, let's replace the div. And this time it's not going to be with the div, it will be with link. And we can go ahead and close that to make sure we don't get a error for that. To pass a few things in. First, the link needs to have a href. So href is going to be set to href. We'll also need a class name, and because we're using CLSX, we're going to dynamically pass it in, not pass it in as a string. So we'll go class name and give it the curly braces, and we'll say CLSX, then include parentheses. The first line is going to be what it's going to be what the item has in its resting state, if you will, and then we're going to distinguish how we want it presented, if it is active or if it's not. So for right now, we're going to say flex, centered, a gap of 3, padding on the X of 4, on the Y of 2. We'll say rounded medium, and transition all, and we'll just say relative. And remember, we are going to have within this link, we're going to have a icon and a label. So we want to make sure that the items are centered and the direction is flex. And by default, it's going to be flex row. And then after the initial styling, add a parentheses. And on the second line is where we're going to utilize the is active prop that we're passing in. So we're going to say if it is active, the first is going to mean yes. We want the background color to gray 600, and we want the text to be white. And if it is not active, and that's where we'll include the colon for or, and we'll say on hover, we want the background color to be gray, and the text color is going to be gray 800. And we'll hit save. Now inside of the link tag, that's going to care for, well, excuse me, that cares for the styling of the link itself. Now inside of the link tag, we're going to add the icon that we brought in, and we want the icon have a class name of text extra large, and then we'll close it. Then we'll include a span, and be sure to add the closing tag. Okay, a little delayed. We're going to pass in the label, label, hit save. And if we go back, we'll see that it is already showing up as is. So I don't see one for unpaid. Oh, okay, might have been closed out. We're not done styling it. So this is what it looks like on a large device. And as you can see, it's already distinguishing that we're on the home route. So that is the link that is highlighted. But let's go back and finish styling this first. So inside of the span, let's give this a class name of hidden, because on small devices, we don't want to be able to see the label. And if we go back, it's actually hidden on all devices. So let's do this. Let's go hidden. And then on large, let's go with block, BLOCK, save. So now we see it, and go to small, and now we don't. Cool. So we see that it is no longer there, the text, once we go to a small device. And let's finish styling this. We'll say the text is small and the font is going to be medium. Click save. And I want to add a little indicator at the end of this. I think I want to remove this rounded and just keep it more blocky. There we go. And then now after the label, the closing span, I'm going to say is active. We'll say div, and I'm just going to give it, this strictly optional, a class name of absolute. And we'll say right is 0, top will be 0, bottom 0, width to be 2, and I'm gonna set the background color to yellow 600. Click save. And then now we have a little yellow background or a little yellow indicator that we're on that page. We already have the gray listed there, but I just wanted to add that in as well. And if we're on, let me see, WHITE, there we go. That looks a lot better. If we're on the page or on the route associated with that link, I want the text to be white and the background to be gray. That's perfect. Let's test out these other routes. We haven't created them just yet. And we'll close out the link item. We should be done with it. And we're done with the header for right now, but I'll just leave it open. So we'll need to create a route for new, paid, and unpaid. So within the website directory, let's add a folder named new, and in it a file named page.tsx. We'll also, let's go ahead and add the functional component. So we'll go RFCE and we'll say new client page and save it. Go back to the website directory. Let's add a page named paid, and in it a file named page.tsx. And we'll name this paid page. Click save. And last, we'll need a unpaid page. So we'll go back to website and add a route named unpaid, and in it a file named page.tsx. We'll give it the RFC snippet, and we'll call this unpaid page. Just click save, and we can close this out. And now let's go back to our local host and refresh the screen. I just want to test out the new routes that we just created. Number one, to make sure the routing is working, but also to make sure that the links are distinguishing the route that we're on. So if I click on new, this is going to take us to the new page. If I click on paid, and you can see the new page is localhost/new. We're on the paid page. You see it right there. We're /paid. That route is highlighted. And if we go to unpaid, you see that we're on the unpaid page /unpaid. So the routing is working properly as well. So I think the next thing that we'll focus on, and someone has to go to a birthday party, but once I get back this evening, the next thing that we'll focus on is adding in the ability to create clients. And then once we can create a client, we'll start displaying the data, add some data cards, add the ability to update and delete clients. And I think that'll pretty much care for everything that we need to have a fully functional client tracker where we have the ability to see quickly if our clients are up to date on their that is owed to us. So for that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream for right now. And I look for me to pick this back up later on this evening on where we left off.